Welcome back. Today, we're looking at a piece from Nuxinor, and I have to say, it is probably one of the most chaotic submissions we have ever seen.
Chaotic is putting it mildly.
It's a YouTube video that's trying to be a Grammys reaction and a serious expose on California's homeless industrial complex, all at once.
It's like watching a clown juggle flaming torches while reading a federal indictment. For the first few minutes, I didn't know what to do.
That is the perfect image for it. And that's really the core of the problem, because he says his goal is to, and I'm quoting, radicalize the bleep out of you.
And he's using some huge claims to do it. The $120 million in hospice fraud, the $170,000 per homeless person.
Right. These are staggering numbers. But this brings us straight to our first point. The relentless use of internet subculture slang and inflammatory slurs actively undermines his goal of persuading anyone new.
You mean sandwiching those huge financial claims between terms like retards, cucks, and goy beam?
Exactly. It creates what we're calling a credibility barrier.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate for a sec. Isn't that his whole brand? I mean, people click on his videos for that edgy shitposter chaos. If you tell him to talk like a news anchor, doesn't he lose his audience?
That's the key question. And no, we're not telling him to become a news anchor, but think about who he says he wants to reach.
The new people, the normies, as he'd say.
Right. So imagine that person, maybe a fiscal conservative who's genuinely worried about tax fraud, clicks on this video.
Okay.
They might be completely open to the argument about the homeless industrial complex, but if the first thing they hear is him calling Billie Eilish a whore, they're gone.
They click off. They assume the whole thing is just hate speech or teenage nonsense before they even see the data.
Yeah. The edge becomes a firewall. It keeps the core fans in, but it locks out anyone he might actually persuade. You can't really trust someone's analysis of a 990 tax form if they're also joking about importing infinite retards.
So their assumption is that the data is as reckless as the vocabulary.
Precisely.
So what's the fix if going full corporate safe mode isn't the answer?
He needs to adopt what we're calling a bifurcated tone strategy. It's basically code switching.
So 2 different modes in the same video.
Exactly. He needs to signal to the audience when it's time to laugh and when it's time to listen. Keep the edgy persona for the pop culture stuff. That's fine.
Walk me through it, using the video itself.
Okay, so take the Billie Eilish segment. She says no one is illegal on stolen land. He's in reaction mode there.
Sure.
He can be sarcastic. He can mock the virtue signaling, uses memes. That all fits. But then he pivots to the cluster of 287 hospice providers.
The Van Nuys data.
Right. At that exact moment, the tone needs to shift. The goy beam jokes, the retard vernacular, it all has to stop.
So instead of the tabloid jokes about Gavin Newsom, he just locks in on the number.
Yes, just state it plainly. LA County has more hospice agencies than 36 states combined. You lower the music, you stop the frantic editing, and you just present the fact.
It's like saying, okay, the joke's over, look at this.
It tells the viewer, I might be a clown, but these numbers are deadly serious. It makes the comedy hit harder later, and it makes the investigation feel real.
That actually leads perfectly into the second big issue, which is the structure, the way these two worlds connect, or rather, the way they don't.
The transitions are jarring.
Incredibly jarring. He jumps from Trevor Noah and Trump tweets to a serious, on-the-ground report with Steve Hilton. It felt like I was watching 2 different browser tabs at the same time.
It feels like a compilation, not a documentary. And because of that, the serious journalism just feels like another reaction clip he's commenting on. It loses its power.
So how do you bridge that? I mean, on the surface, the Grammys and hospice fraud in Van Nuys, they don't seem to have much in common.
They do if you use a thematic pivot. This is a writing issue. He needs to use the celebrity stuff as a direct setup for the policy failure.
Okay, give me an example. How do you get from Billie Eilish to the hospice scam?
Well, he's already got it right there. He uses her stolen land quote.
Right, but then he just pivots to calling her names.
So a better way, a much smarter way, would be to use that quote as the segue. Connect the idea of stolen land to the idea of stolen money.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
You frame it like this. Celebrities are up on stage worrying about stolen land in the abstract. for clout. But right now, in the real world, $23 million is being stolen from taxpayers through fraudulent land deals.
That immediately justifies the whole segment. It tells the audience, I'm not just ranting about celebs, I'm showing you how they're a distraction from the real theft.
Exactly. It turns the reaction content into evidence for his actual argument. You could do the same thing with the security at the Grammys.
The checkpoints and the ID requirements.
Yeah, contrast that directly with the whistleblower talking about the barbed wire at the Path homeless shelter.
So you get this tale of two gated communities, one for the Hollywood elite and one for the fraudsters.
It creates a cohesive narrative. It stops being a rant and starts being a thesis. But speaking of that, we have to talk about the evidence itself.
The whistleblower.
The whistleblower. This is where the high-energy style really hurts the piece.
For me, this was the most frustrating part of the whole thing. He introduces a whistleblower who claims, and this is a bombshell, that 60% of homeless shelters are used by illegal aliens.
A claim that, if true, changes the entire political conversation in the state.
It's a nuclear fact, but how is it delivered?
At 100 miles an hour, right between a joke about a satanic cult and a meme about fighting for a tree god.
I honestly couldn't tell if that 60% figure was a real statistic, a guess, or just part of the bit, part of the host's hyperbole.
And that ambiguity is fatal for an investigation. When there's no hierarchy of information, the whistleblower sounds just as unreliable as the host's jokes.
So the viewer just assumes, well, he's exaggerating everything else for comedy, so this is probably exaggerated too.
Which is why he needs to employ a verification pause.
A pause?
A literal, audible visual pause in the pacing. The second the whistleblower is introduced, the rapid-fire editing stops. The screaming stops.
You show the receipts.
You show the receipts. The script says, we confirmed their identity. Okay, prove it. Show me the redacted email, the blurred-out employment badge. Something that proves this person is who you say they are.
You give the audience permission to actually believe this part?
Yes, you have to signal, we are switching gears now. This isn't entertainment anymore. This is evidence. And he has to be so careful to separate the quote from his interpretation.
That's a really important point, because he mashes them together.
He does. The whistleblower says they don't ask for ID unless there's a tax form. That's a procedural fact.
And the host immediately jumps to, they are importing voters.
Which is a political conclusion. If you blend them, you let a skeptic dismiss the fact because they disagree with the conclusion.
So you have to lay the foundation first. Let the fact sink in on its own.
Exactly. Here's the proof. Here's what the insider says. Let the audience process that. Then you hit them with your commentary. It grounds the entire argument.
Which brings us to the final point, the goal of radicalization itself, the actual argument he's making.
Right. He says that's his goal, but the script makes a classic mistake. It's preaching to the choir.
It assumes you already believe that California is a communist hellscape.
Yeah, and it attributes every problem to politicians being either evil or retarded. And look, that's satisfying if you already hate Gavin Newsom.
But it doesn't persuade anyone new.
Not at all. If a neutral person thinks these are just, well-intentioned but failing policy, just calling the people behind them retards doesn't change their mind. It just makes you look angry.
You're not dismantling their logic. You're just insulting them.
So how does he fix that without losing his aggressive style?
He should use the steel man, then dismantle technique.
Okay, so that's where you state your opponent's argument in its strongest possible form before you tear it down.
Exactly. You briefly explain the stated purpose of the policy, the why they say they're doing it, and then you destroy it with the reality on the ground. It's actually a much more brutal way to argue.
Okay, give me an example from the script.
Let's take the Weingard Center, that homeless housing project that cost $800,000 a unit.
The one with the gyms and cafes?
Right. He just mocks it as a waste. But a steel man approach would be to first say something like, now, the government claims these amenities are necessary to restore dignity, that to get people off the streets, you need to offer them a home they can actually be proud of. Okay, so you show that you understand their argument. You're not just straw-manning them.
And then you pull the rug out. But when it costs $800,000 per unit and the developer gets indicted for wire fraud, that's not dignity. That's looting.
Oof. Yeah, that hits so much harder.
Because you've just proved that their actions betray their own stated ideals. You're not just saying gyms are stupid. You're saying they are using the idea of dignity to steal your money.
It's a logical trap. It works on the person who thinks, well, maybe these people just need help, by showing them the help is actually just going into a developer's bank account.
Precisely. You can do the same with the no ID policy. Instead of just screaming treason, explain their argument first.
Which is that requiring ID is a barrier to entry for undocumented people who need safety. It's a compassion argument.
Exactly. State that. And then you use the whistleblower to crush it. But here is proof this loophole is being exploited by people driving BMWs. Not just desperate refugees. The policy of compassion is actually enabling fraud.
You're destroying their argument using their own logic and your fact.
And that is how you radicalize a neutral viewer. You don't scream at them. You show them step by step how they are being played.
It really all just comes down to discipline, doesn't it? The raw material here is incredible. It's electric, but it lacks the narrative discipline to make the punches land for a wider audience.
That's the perfect way to put it. He clearly has the investigative chops. I mean, that hospice snap is brilliant citizen journalism.
But it's buried under a mountain of memes and exclusionary slang.
So, to recap our critique, we've got 3 main actionable suggestions. First, bifurcate the tone. Keep the comedy, but signal to your audience when it's time to get serious.
Code switch. Let the silence be as loud as the screaming.
Second, bridge the segments. Use the celebrity hypocrisy as a direct thematic link to the policy failures. Make it one cohesive story.
Don't make the audience feel like they've changed the channel by accident.
And third, elevate the evidence. Use that verification pause. Frame the whistleblower testimony with real gravity. Separate fact from satire so your audience can actually use your arguments.
And honestly, if he can do that, if he can marry that high-energy style with that kind of rigorous structure, he stops being just another reactor. He becomes a genuinely dangerous investigative commentator.
In the best way. It's about maturing the style to match the substance. The potential here is just massive. We'd love to see a revised version applying some of these ideas.
Absolutely. Send it back in. I really want to see how this evolved.
That's all for this critique. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.